زيك ما لقيت يا وطني أنا هنا
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Balancing Act. Today we are talking about motherhood and the mental load, which means having to do it all like a robot all the time, and the fact that all that obsession with doing everything is actually deeply rooted in shame, and why so many of us need to have this conversation and have it quickly, because if we don't get to the bottom of it and start managing our energy and our capacities, we're going to lead ourselves down a very bad path of chronic illness, mental, emotional, physical, psychological diseases that we can definitely prevent when we have conversations like this and figure out what tips and tricks we can do in order to help maintain our energy and our capacities as mamas and people who are raising the next generation of the world. Let's get into the podcast. I'm your host, Dad, and today I have my girl, my sister, my one and only, here with me so we can have this conversation. Come on.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. So the first thing I want to share that I feel like I've learned is very wonderful from Dr. John Gray's book, which is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
I love that book.
And he says that as a woman, you might be cooking and cleaning and mopping and washing the dishes and taking care of your kid and cleaning and cooking these elaborate meals and doing every single thing that you possibly can, and then becoming extremely resentful because it's too much and you've exhausted and burnt yourself out. And he says that it's actually your responsibility. All that resentment is something you have caused yourself because you've done something that you didn't have the energy to do. Different from men, because men only do things when they want to. And so women, when we do all these extreme amount of things, men are like, okay, well, you did it because I didn't ask you to do it. You did it because you wanted to. Because they only do things that they want to do. They assume that we also do things because we want to do it. But the reality is, so many of us are cooking and cleaning nonstop because we feel like we have to. And so the reason why so many of us feel this extreme pressure and having to do every single thing when it comes to every area of our life, cooking full, nutritious, healthy meals, looking after our kids perfectly, being responsible for their health, their diets, their nutrition, our home, the cleanliness, working ourselves and performing, excelling at work. The reason why we feel so much pressure to be perfect all the time is actually deeply rooted in shame. And shame, from Dr. Brene Brown, is thinking you're a bad person. Guilt is I've done a bad thing. Shame is I'm a bad person. Guilt is I've done a bad thing. And I think it's so important to recognize this because as a Sudanese woman, as a Sudanese Muslim woman, I've grown up my entire life feeling so much shame about not having a perfectly clean home all the time. And it actually reflected in my life today, and I've worked through it in therapy, right? Because my therapist, I explained to her how I have this overwhelming pressure to always clean my home and make sure that it's perfect at all times. And she said to me, like let's really work through that. And I realized it's because I had a very traumatic experience when I was younger, when I had like a relative come over and record a messy part of my home and like post it on the internet, on social media. And I remember just feeling so humiliated, so ashamed, so embarrassed. And I don't think that it came from like a very evil, malicious place. I think that it was just something that was like done because we were young and very stupid. Mm-hmm. And I'd spoken with her and she apologized, and it was something that it just happened in the past, but it stayed with me for such a long time that it really dictated how I lived my day to day now as an adult. Mm-hmm. And my therapist made me work through it, and she's like, I really want you to answer me and tell me, what do you think will happen if your home isn't perfect all the time? And I explained to her that I'm actually so afraid that someone comes over unannounced, because as a Sudani person, like, that happened all the time. And I think like just the embarrassment or the humiliation of someone coming and seeing your home being in a disastrous state, just feeling like you're so much inferior, like you're a bad person, and now I'm like constantly working nonstop to make sure that never happens again. But really and truly, what's going to happen to me if someone sees that my home is a mess? What's going to happen to me? For me to have to live in a state of like being hyper vigilant all the time it's going to make me sick. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the truth. You know what I mean? Feeling the need to be perfect all the time, it shows up in the end. It shows up in your health, chronically. It shows up long-term mental health, emotional health, and it's happening to me and so many other moms and women out there who feel this overwhelming pressure to be perfect and have a perfectly clean home all the time and cook the most elaborate full 5-course meals because that's how you have to show up as a wife and be perfect and cook the most amazing meals for your family. When in reality, you can replace that with some really healthy, nutritious, fast 30-minute meals that get the job done and give you some energy and capacity and give you like some energy at the end of the day. And I think that like so many of us overlook the importance of having energy at the end of the day. But if you are prioritizing having the most perfect home and cooking the most elaborate meals and being the most perfect in every single area, at the end of the day, you're not going to have as much energy for your family, right? For your kids, for your siblings. You can't do it all. You cannot do it all. And it's going to show up with being angry, aggressive, impatient, more likely to abuse your family and your kids, being so much more hostile. And I really learned that because, like, looking back at my childhood, I would have preferred being in a messy home, eating from some frozen chicken nuggets, and having like my mom be fully present and having energy and the capacity to like be patient and loving and regulated, as opposed to somebody who's constantly in fight or flight because they want to make sure their home is perfect, because they're forcing themselves to be in the kitchen for so many hours to make these exhausting meals, when in reality something quick could have gotten the job done just as well. You know what I mean?
Right, because that's how our parents show love, especially our mom.
Yeah.
And that's how she shows that she
100%. I think like looking back, my mom, her way of showing love was definitely through like cooking a really long, slow, you know what I mean, slow cooked meal in order to make sure that like, you know, she showed us how she loved us and the love that she had for us. But that just exhausted her. That really, really exhausted her. It burned her out. It's just too hot to be in the kitchen for 3 hours. It's too hot to be in the kitchen cooking such a long meal. It's really exhausting. That really and truly something quick and brief that gave her more energy was something I've appreciated much more. And I think it's something that my kid would also appreciate more, and my partner and everyone in my life, because I now am somebody who's like capable. I want to say I truly believe that before looking at antidepressants, as a mommy who's overburdened and overwhelmed, it's really worth looking at your brain and looking at your habits and your quality of life. I heard this from Dr. John Amen, and I think it's so crucial and so important, without shaming anybody or making anyone feel bad, because at the end of the day, I think that everybody's trying to help themselves and their families. But I really and truly believe that as somebody who was like, I can't anymore. I'm like depressed. I'm so anxious. I don't know what to do with my life. I realized that a lot of what I was feeling was because I was obsessed with trying to be perfect and do every single thing possible in my life for my family, because I felt like that's what women were supposed to do. And I think having conversations like this around shame and how it's deeply rooted in a lot of us trying to be perfect and do everything, and how these conversations really do impact our quality of life as women and our health in the future.
Everything, get help.
Yeah.
You can't do it all. Perfection doesn't exist. Stress kills. It's really important to take care of you. Yeah. And you have only one body.
And then through taking care of yourself, you can then show up for other people. You become the best mom. You become the best wife. You become the best friend and the best community, everything. You become that person because you have that space, you have that energy, you have that capacity. You know what I mean? You haven't burnt yourself out entirely. Especially because you don't get an award. You don't get an award for doing every single thing.
For she who struggles most.
For she who struggles most.
No, nobody claps for you. You don't get a recognition. Yeah. You get nothing.
You probably get a little bit of, oh, today I recognize you didn't do a perfect job.
Oh, why did you not do this today?
Yeah, you get some judgment in return.
Expectation, and that's where most people get disappointed. Yeah.
So I'm going to share with you 5 things I've incorporated in my life that have made me feel like I've gained a lot of my energy back, my autonomy. I've managed my energy bucket, and I've really just gotten a grip on my life. The first one is from the amazing book, The Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Declutter your home. Declutter, declutter, declutter. Just listen to me. You have way too many things. You have to look at the item and ask yourself, use the Marie Kondo method. Does this bring me joy? If the item brings you joy, you keep it. If it doesn't, give it away. There are charities. You can dispose of things, especially if it's no longer being used and it's no longer in good shape. This applies to books, to furniture, to what you're keeping in your fridge. some of us are real hoarders through and through. Your clothes, your furniture, whatever the case is, because owning less makes it easier to clean. Number 2, I have really perfected the art of 30-minute meals. My entire Instagram and social media is like a saved category of fast like food to cook that is nutritious and healthy. So I'll cut up the vegetables, I'll cut up the chicken, I'll throw it in the oven. It takes me 10-15 minutes to prepare, and it does its thing in the oven. Slow cooker, pressure cooker, mwah, chef's kiss. Put the seasoning, dump everything inside, and just let it do its work. Has given me so much more control over my life because I feel like I have more time and energy, and I'm not exhausted, I'm not miserable and resentful. With my kid, I have started incorporating putting my phone away and sitting down with him, doing the 20 minutes, which is also by Dr. John Amen. I love it so much. 20 minutes with your kid, no suggestions, no questions, no criticism, no suggestions, no questions, no directions, for 20 minutes. You sit there with your kid, you do for 20 minutes, honestly, and sit on the floor with them, be like really close, really hands-on. It has done wonders for bonding, which makes me feel so much better about guilt as a mom when I don't have that much energy, when I'm tired, and when I may be resorting to other methods of support. I'm just grateful that I can give him the 20 minutes every single day, because that makes me feel like I'm really active in his life, and it's helped with the guilt. Because that was 1, the cleaning, the cooking. Number 4, I have started to clean for only 20 minutes a day. Whatever I can do in 20 minutes, I do it. And I clean each room separately. And I don't leave the room unless I'm done cleaning it. So I treat each room as its own. If I have something that belongs in a different room, I won't go to the other room, I'll put it in the hallway. And then I'll clean the hallway as its own different room. I learned this from TikTok. So helpful, because if you have ADHD or something that resembles it, oh my goodness, it's so good to do one room individually. Also, 2-minute rule. If I can clean it in 2 minutes, I'll clean it in 2 minutes. Otherwise, I am leaving it alone. And then the one-touch rule. So if I touch something one time, I'll get rid of it then and there. And I have stopped cleaning 24/7. I've stopped running after my kid and cleaning every single mess that he makes, because that exhausts me and burns me out. And now I feel like I am in control of myself and my emotions. Number 5, I've started to treat myself. I have started, because a happy mom is a happy home with a happy kid and a happy husband and a happy life. Every single day, I'll really do something for myself. Every single solitary day, for 1 hour, I will do something for myself. I will treat myself, whether that means to a meal that day, or to a massage that day, or to watching TV that day. Whatever the case is, I will treat myself to 1 hour every single day. And I know that every single mom doesn't have this luxury, but maybe when your kids are in school, buy yourself something, treat yourself to something every single day. Every day I treat myself. Every single day. I work hard. But yes, you guys, that is it for this podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. It was quite quick and brief, straight to the point. I love you guys. I appreciate you, mamas. You're so amazing. You're doing such an incredible job raising little humans. I hope that these little tips help you and support you and make you feel empowered. Let me know what you guys think, and I cannot wait to see you on the next podcast, where we'll be talking about marriage and the things that I have had to learn the hard way. I love you guys so much, and I hope to see you on the next podcast. I leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.